Hello guys, I'm back. I've been busy with some homework. Hope you miss me as the way I miss you. So, let's see. The first thing we want to do when we get back after a few days is to know the meta because the most important skill you want to have in this game is to know the output range of your enemy. So, the first thing we are going to do is that know the meta. So, for it, I'm opening the weekly report, of course, of our best favorite content creator, that is Jeff Hoolan, to see how is the weekly report. Remember, guys, if you are not subscribed, please subscribe and press the like button. That helps me and motivates me a lot.
We had what is potentially one of the most disruptive OTAs in Marvel Snap history, with 7 of the most commonly played tech/interactive cards in the game taking sizable nerfs. Today's Dex Roundup is going to kick off by looking at the metrics of all 7 of these cards and how they're performing in the competitive slices on the Untapped data tracker so far. We're going to dig on into the best decks for getting your Bastion and Vivid weekend missions done. We're going to cover the best performing decks overall for those looking to hit their ladder goals, and we're going to round things out by covering my personal favorite decks that I've been playing after the changes. Let's go ahead and get to it, shall we? As of the recording of this video, we have a 30,000 game sample size for the top 50% of players in Infinite on the Untapped tracker for these 7 tech cards that all got pretty sizable nerfs. As we can see here, 4 of them are maintaining positive average cubes, 4 of
Okay,
them
if you
have win
ask me
rates around 50%.
about the chains, they are good. I like it. I like it. There's a few ones that got too much, like Shang-Chi with 2, even 1 stat power stats is fine, but the the text box change is bad because now it's just unplayable. In this state, Shang-Chi is just unplayable. And the other one that got just unplayable is Killmonger. The card is useless now. So that's it. Those are the 2 ones I think they are going to uh, get back, or at least uh, got his some kind of buff back. But the other ones are fine. The other ones I like it. So let's hear.
And Shang-Chi and Negasonic Teenage Warhead are the 2 standouts in the group, really languishing. In my anecdotal experience so far, I think Killmonger's probably one of the ones that took the biggest hit, even though its average cubes on here are still all right. I would estimate that part of the reason why this card isn't negative like the others, despite taking one of the biggest changes, is because Destroy overall actually gained a bit, since that's an archetype that really struggled against things like Cosmo and Shang-Chi, which are a bit less popular after their changes. Shang-Chi predictably getting a massive downgrade here. A lot of his power is in his ability to kind of mitigate location variance. He's no longer an auto win card in places like Nidavellir or the Gamma Lab, where multiple 10 plus power things pop up, and he's contributing less actual power to his location now as well. One thing I would like to specifically call out is that, in my opinion, I would wager the data that we're looking at from things like the Untapped tracker tends to skew towards more competitive players. So I also would not be surprised if the overall data from these cards actually is a bit worse in the full player population that Second Dinner has access to look at. Obviously, that's just pure speculation on my part, but it's something that makes sense. As far as what have these changes done from the metagame, from an anecdotal and untapped data perspective, I honestly feel like they took an existing good metagame and made it a bit better. We have a huge range of decks that we're going to cover today. This is going to be some of the most raw number of deck lists I've ever covered in a video like this. There are so many different things putting up competitive numbers, but at the same time, none of them are really insane standouts breaking away from the pack in this early data sampling. There's also a handful of decks that are playing very interactive cards that are still finding success, even if some of these particular interactive bits are no longer the ones they're reaching for. I think what Second Dinner did in this round of changes, they took some of the most generically applicable and powerful disruptive cards and brought them down in line with some of the others in the metagame. So now you have more considerations when you're picking how you want to be disruptive, as opposed to always reaching for some of the best, like Shang-Chi was, for example, in his previous iteration. Moving along to some specific deck lists, starting with Bastion, our weekly release this week. He looks to be predictably finding a home alongside things like Frigga and Victoria Hand. These decks were competitive before him, and he's adding an element of consistency, giving you another way to double up one of your most powerful stat producers when you find it. This particular variation featuring Misery is putting up some of the most consistent numbers on Untap for both Bastion and Victoria Hand specifically. His other predictable home is Cerebro 3, with lots of different variations being tested, with this particular Diamondback Hazmat one putting up the best numbers by a wide margin. I think the reason why we're seeing this one in particular be successful is it is an answer to the age-old question: what do you do when you don't find your deck's namesake? Diamondback alongside Hazmat gives you another thing to be copying up. They can put meaningful stats into a lane. These stats can combo with your Cerebro when everything comes together all at once, but they can also be a way for you to win lanes when your deck's namesake is nowhere to be found. I also love the really cheeky inclusion of Agony in this deck list. You can set that up with Cerebro and Mystique to give them points of power in key spots. Another place Bastion has been popping up is in the flex spot in the Bullseye deck and discard deck. This archetype has long been playing Frigga as a way to double up its namesakes, and Bastion does this cleanly as well. Even if your Dakin is just a 2/3, you'll have 2 Maramasa shards, letting it double all the way up to 12, and occasionally you'll be getting 3 or more of them, letting it scale up even more. While I don't think you absolutely have to have Bastion to play the discard archetype, this flex slot has been things like Gambit and Redshift and others in the past. It definitely seems like a good way to add another touch of consistency to this classical deck. Lastly, in the vein of Bastion, if you're looking for something a little bit more out there, this end of turn variation featuring Moon Girl is an interesting amalgamation. Doubling up your Invisible Woman alongside things like Thena and Havoc is a great way to scale threats that are very difficult for your opponent to interface with, and Bastion gives you another avenue to do that. If you curve Woman on 3 into Bastion on 4, you can then deploy your copied Invisible Woman and even a Prodigy on 5, giving you 3 Invisible Women at the end of the game to give you absolutely massive numbers all around. This deck list is also leveraging the Dakin game plan, who Bastion synergizes with as well. All of the best performing Viv Vision decks on the Untap tracker look to be Surfer variations at this current juncture, with this Domino Quicksilver Wiccan variation putting up the best performances in a meaningful sample size. If you don't have Wiccan in your collection, or you're just looking for a more classical Surfer build, this configuration with Sarah at the top end also is putting up reasonable metrics as well. I actually recorded a set with this one, and we'll have a highlight up on the Daily Deck Highlights channel linked in the video description down below, and Herbie was honestly quite impressive with it. 2 out of Herbie's 4 modes allow him to get big points of power on the third turn of the game, either doubling his stats
I
or
don't
making
like
a 4
this
power
deck.
run. In the Untapped data,
I don't like this
predictably,
deck.
the wall variation that's also featuring this isn't
This
remotely
is
surprising
one
to
of
anyone
our
who played
favorite
this
decks.
archetype in the past. That card is an
I
absolute
don't like this
poser
deck.
for this style of deck, and now it just gets to put up
I don't
another
like this deck.
mid-sized deck in Marvel. Those linear decks that I just
This
covered
deck is
are
good, you
putting
can
up
play it,
metrics.
and
None of
it's
them
fair.
have
It's a fair
incredibly high
deck.
play rates, and our current metagame is still very diverse, allowing deck. Another archetype
I
that
don't
caught
like
my
this
eye,
deck.
mid-size as opposed much as it just kind of makes her
This
a
deck is
bit
good
different.
and is
This
fair.
deck on the regular can play her
When
out on the
Shang-Chi
last
get
turn
back
of the
his
game as a
text box, it's
combination
gonna be
disruptive
fair?
element, as well as
Question
enabler
mark.
for its own downside cards like Typhoid Mary or Red Skull interact. There are
This is a good
so many
deck.
interactive cards
Play,
in
you
our
can play
modern
this deck.
Lady
This deck is
Deathstrike, as
bad.
I'm looking at in the more
And
competitive
that's
slice
it.
on the
That's all, guys. Remember to click the like button and subscribe if you are not subscribed. That helps me a lot and motivates me a lot. And see you in the next one.